Yes. So let's compare now between the inverse and direct. In inverse, if you multiply x times y, you get k. And in direct, if you divide y over x, you get k. Now, how the equation of the inverse? It will be y equals k over x. This will be the equation for the inverse variation. And for the direct, y will be k times x. Now we started with the inverse. We'll see, we saw yesterday, how can we find or write the equation and how we graph it. Let's now continue here. How can we graph the inverse variation? We stopped here yesterday. We say that if k is greater than 0, so the graph lies on the first and third quadrant, and if k is less than 0, it lies in the second and in the fourth quadrant. This is for these two cases. Now let's have some examples. If you have it as y over k over x, or x times y equals k, which both of them indicates for the inverse variation, let's see now how we will graph it. Now let's remember, from here, since 8 is greater than 0, so that means the graph will be on first in quadrant 1 and in quadrant 3, since k is positive. This is the first step. The second step, be careful. It must not intercept the x-axis or the y-axis. So let's graph it now. Every day, every time when you want to graph any things or any equation, you have to make a table. So let's make a table here. And for this table, as we did before, you have to put them like this. Let's plot now. This is x and this is y. Now let's put some numbers. If x is 1, if x is 2, if x is 4, if x is 8, if x is 16, if x is 32, what will be y? So the first step, we plot some numbers, some points here. Let's now use the equation to find y. The equation says y is 8 over x. So here I want now to change the value of x depending on each number I put it here. Let's try now with the first one. Here, x is 1. So let's remove x and put it as 1. So when x is 1, so 8 over 1 will be 8.
8.
So this is 8. Now let's see if x is 2. So let's take now this number 2, put it here instead of x. So 8 over 2 is
4.
4.
4.
Then let's now change this 2 here now. Now let's bring number 4. 8 over 4.
2.
2.
Should be
2.
2.
2.
So two. Now let's take this 8. 8 over 8 is 1.
1.
So
1.
here we have 1. Now let's take 16. 8 over 16.
2.
And teacher, it will
Half.
be 1 over
8
2.
over 16.
Yes.
Divide by 8 is 1. Divide by 16 is 2, so half. And 8 over 32. Divide by 8 is 1. Divide by
1
8
over
is
4.
4. So it is 1 over 4. So as I told you, the first thing here you have to do, that's you have to plot points for each one here for the expected number. Then after that now, let's now graph it. So after we plot the points, let's now graph it here on the XY plane. Now, here we have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and so on. And here we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. And here we have -2, -4, -6, -8, -10. And here we have -2, -4, -5, -6, sorry, -8, -10, -12, -14, -16, and so on. Now first, at point 1, 8. So at 1, we have 8. So it is here. At 2, it is 4. At 4, it is 2. At 8, it is 1. And at 16, it is between in the middle here. So when you connect now between these 2 points, you get the graph as this one here. As you see now, it didn't intercept the axis. And since 8 is greater than 0, so it could be in the quadrant 1 and in the quadrant 3. So let's draw it now in the quadrant 3. In the quadrant 3 here, as I do this one here, I have the same numbers, but let's like this. At point -1. So here, what you have to do, just put the negative numbers. Okay, just put the make the numbers negative. That's mean if x -1, so y will be -8. If it's -2, -4. If it is -4, it's -1. It's -8. Where's negative? Ah, this is 4. No, it's here and here. So when you connect now between them, you will get this shape.
Teacher, why it is negative?
Here I told you, when you draw them in quadrant 3, make both of the x and y are negative.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This is here. Yes. Or you can do it, you can say like draw it in the first quadrant, then make it like a mirror here. Let's put, there's a mirror here like this, and flip it on the quadrant 3. This is 4b for 8 over x. Is it clear? So plot the points, put them in the x and y axis. Be careful, since k is greater than 0, so it must be on the quadrant and in the first and third quadrant, and it must not intercept the axis. Is it clear?
Yes, miss, it's clear.
Yes, teacher, it's clear.
Okay. Let's have now another example. Here now for -8 over x. Now, who can tell me where the graph will be? If it is in first and third quadrant, or in second and fourth quadrant?
Second and the fourth quadrant.
Bravo. Why? Why?
Because it is less than 0.
Yes, because k here is a negative. It is less than 0. So now let's make the same steps. Let's make a table.
Miss, can I put 0.0 or it will be undefined?
Undefined, because 8 over 0 is undefined. 0 is mean
Okay.
it will intersect the x-axis, and this is cannot be. So this is x and this is y. As I told you, plot any points like 1. Now be careful, they must be positive, like 1,
Teacher 1, 2.
4, and 8. Let's now put the points for y here. Negative 8 over 1 is negative 8. Negative 8 over 2,
Negative 4.
Negative 8 over 4 is negative 2. And negative 8 over 8 is negative 1. After I found now the points for x and y, let's put it now on the x and y axis here. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, and negative 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, and negative 10. Now, 1, at point 1, it's negative 8. At point 2, it's negative 4. At point 4, it's negative 2. And at point 8, it's negative 1. So it is here. This will be now here. And as we said, since it is in k is less than 0, so it must be in second and fourth quadrant. So let's make a mirror here like this and put it like down here. And how to find the numbers here? Just change the numbers of the x. Or other words, say like, without make these steps. Say in your mind, if x is negative 2, so y will be what? And I mean use the points on the graph. Okay? The first step, we put the points on the table, we graph it on the fourth quadrant. Now I want you now to plot the point, to use the points on the graph to continue, to draw it on the second quadrant. So at point negative 2, take point negative 2 and take point negative 8. Yalla. At point negative 2, what you have to do here? You have to use the equation.
4.
So let's add negative 8 over negative 2, which is what? 4. And at point negative 4, evaluate in the equation. Yalla. If x is negative 4,
it will be teacher 2.
bravo. Where's negative 8 over negative 4 is 2. This is 4.2. I'm sorry, I'm here. And for negative 8,
Teacher, it will be
1.
1.
It's going to be 1.
Bravo.
1.
So after that now, connect between the points. You will get it like this. So since k here is less than 0, so the graph will be infer in the second and fourth quadrant. Is it clear?
Yes, teacher.
Yes. Yes, teacher.
Have another example now here. Here now, in number 18, x times y equals 12. So this is not an equation. I want to find or to write the equation. The equation is y equal k over x. K is 12, so it will be 12 over x. So this is the equation I want now to graph it. As I told you, here, the first, you have 3 steps. The first step, look at k. If k is greater than 0, so it will be quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. If k is less than 0, so it will be in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. The second step, make a table. The third step, plot the points. And don't forget here to flip it or make its mirror on the opposite quadrant. Like, I mean, if you draw it on the first, make it in the opposite. Where's the opposite? It is here. And if you draw it on the second, make it or flip it in its opposite. Where is it? On the quadrant 4. These are the steps of how graphing an inverse variation. So y here is 12 over x. So the first step, let's now use the steps. I'll follow on the steps. Step number 1, look at k. Is k greater or less than 0? Greater than 0, bravo. So since it's greater than 0, so my graph must be in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. If I find it in quadrant 2, there's something wrong. Yeah, the second step now, so it's in quadrants 1 and 3. The second step now, you have to make a table. Let's make a table here. To put the points for x and y. This is x and this is y. Now 1, 2, 4. Now every time try to look at numbers that is divisible by 12. Like 1, 2, 4, and 6. That's each number can divide by 12. Then let's now, after that, let's now find y. How to find y? By using the equation. In this case here, y is 12 over 1. In this case here, y is 12 over 2. In this case here, y is 12 over 4. And in this case here, y is 12 over 6. Now for the first one, y is 12 over 1, so the value of y here is 12. The second one, y is 12 over 2, so 6. 12 over 4 is 3, and 12 over 6 is 2. So I have the points as 1, 12, 2, 6, 4, 3, and 6, 2. Is it clear?
Yes, it is.
Yes, miss.
Okay. Then after that now, after we make a table, let's what? Go to step number 3, which is plot the points. So let's now here draw the x, y axis. Here we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 10, 12, 14, and 16. And here we have -2, -4, -6, -8, negative 10, and negative 12. Here we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And here we have negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, and negative 10, and negative 12. Then now plot the points. Where is our points here? We have 1, 12. 1, 12. The second one, 2 and 6. The third one, 4 and 3. And the last one, 6 and 2. Connect now between the points. Now be careful, it must not intercept the x and y axis. The second step now, you have to draw it on the opposite axis. I mean, on this axis here. What you have to do, just use the points on the graph. Yalla. Now at point negative 2, evaluate it in the equation here. So what's the value of y will be?
It will be teaching.
At
Yes,
point
it will be
negative 2.
4.
So how it will be? It will be 12 over negative 2.
Negative 6.
So it will be negative 6.
Negative.
At point negative 4.
Negative 3.
It will be negative 3. Bravo. So it is here. At point negative 6, it will be negative 2. At point negative 12, it will be what? Negative 1.
Negative 1.
So then now, connect between the points. You will find that this is a graph for 12 over x, whereas the graph is on the first and on the third quadrant. Is it clear?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, miss.
Do you have any question for graphing the inverse variation?
No, miss.
No, thank you, teacher.
No, teacher, can you not erase?
Yalla, okay.
Teacher, are you talking?
No, I'm waiting Farah to write. Now, let's now here recall the direct variation. As I told you in the beginning of the lesson, the direct variation, whereas if you divide, or whereas k is by dividing y over x. So if you divide the ratio of y over x, this is k. So the equation will be y equals k times x. What does it mean here? That means once you increase the value of x, the value of y will be increased. As an example, maybe you take some, for sure you take some examples in science. That's as an example, if you increase the, like we say, like if you increase the heat of the pan,
Temperature. Yes.
you increase
pressure
the temperature, sorry, they meant as an example, the amount of time that you will need it for cooking, it will be, this is decreased.
Pressure, miss.
Pressure is increased. If you,
Yes, teacher, when the temperature.
Yeah,
Like
so
that.
as an example, in the science, if you increase the temperature, the pressure will be decreased, will be increased, say. This is an example of direct variation in science. Once you increase the temperature, the pressure will be increased. This is a direct, whereas y is k times x. This is the equation for the direct. Now, how the graph will be, as I told you, the graph here, it could be on the first and on the third quadrant, but here it comes as a linear function, or as a line, sorry, and it must intercept the axis. And also it could be when x is less than 0, it could be on the second and on the fourth quadrant, and it can also intercept the axis. So the first one here, if k is greater than 0, so the graph will be in first and third quadrant, as we said in the inverse. And if k is less than 0, the graph will be on the second and on the fourth quadrant. How the graph will be? It will be a line, and it must intercept the x-axis and the x or y-axis. The equation is y equals k times x. And the ratio for dividing y into x is k. Now, how the question will be like y varies directly with x. If I say y varies directly with x, so this is direct variation. But if you say y varies inversely with x, so this is an inverse variation. How the graph of the inverse variation will be? As you see here, it will be, as we said before, it will be like a curve. It's not like a line. This curve, it must not intercept the axis. And if k is greater than 0, it will be on first and third quadrant. And when k is less than 0, it will be in the second and fourth quadrant. This is the difference between them. Both of them, if k is greater than 0. Let's see now if k is greater than 0. If k is greater than 0 and direct variation, if k is greater than 0, sorry, both of them must be on the first and on the third quadrant when k is greater than 0. But if it is direct, it comes like a line. But if it is inverse, it comes like a curve. The curve did not intercept the axis, but the line intercepted. When k now is less than 0, both of them, it must be in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. But in the direct variation, it comes like a line. It intercepts the axis. But if it is in the inverse variation, it comes like a curve. It didn't touch the axis, and it cannot be 0. And for the direct, it can be 0. In the inverse, it cannot be 0. The equation for the direct is y equals k times x, and for the inverse is y equals k over x. Now from here, and this is very important, you will need it later on in physics. Here, if you increase the magnitude of x, the magnitude of y will be increased. So increase, this is direct, or decrease and decrease. This is direct. And the inverse, no. In the inverse, if you increase the amount of, or if you decrease the amount of x, the amount of y will be increased. They are the opposite. Decrease and increase. This is an inverse variation. One of the examples for the inverse variation, like as an example, if you are cooking something, if you increase the temperature, so the amount of cooking, the amount of time that you need to finish the cooking will be decreased. This is an inverse variation. Is it clear?
Yes, miss.
Okay. Now I will stop here to